Hey guys, it's Meg and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm setting up my bullet journal ready for August and let's just get into it. So the theme I've decided to go with for August is daisies, inspired by Justin Bieber's new album and the song Daisies that I've been loving recently. And because of that, I wanted to go with quite a minimalistic style this time and just focusing on making the flowers look really nice and simple, and then adding a little bit of sparkle with some brighter colours just so it's not too plain, because obviously with the daisies the petals are white, so I knew I wasn't going to be adding in so much colour to the main bit of drawing. And so I chose blue, pink and yellow as kind of the accent colours, and then of course we're going to have that more golden yellow as the centre of the daisies. But here I'm just setting up my quote page. The quote I've chosen for this month, of course flower inspired, says "There are always flowers for those who want to see them," and it's a quote from the artist Matisse, and I just thought that was a really nice one and goes really well with the theme. Then I'm just adding the bit of colour that I was talking about, so I'm using the Staedtler fine liners. These are a 0.3mm tip, and as I said, I'm using yellow, pink and blue for that. And then I'm using the Tombow brush pen in the colour 985, which is a slightly more orange golden tone yellow, which I thought was just perfect for the centre of the daisies. And then I'm also using a green Crayola super tip because the tip of those pens goes to a nice fine point, so I was just using that to go over all the fine line work for the stems and the leaves to brighten it up and bring in some green. Then just a few little final touches. I added a bit of light pink into the closed flowers, and that is the quote page all complete. Now we're moving on to the cover page, and although I do call this side of the double page spread the cover page, I like the two pages together with the quote and the cover as a whole because I think it just makes a really nice start to the month. It makes the theme really clear, and yeah, I just like having that big bit of space to introduce the new theme and the new month, set the tone with the quote, and it's a really nice way to look back through your journal and see the theme for that month at a glance. Now, just to give you a few tips on drawing flowers, because it's going to be quite essential for setting up this theme if you want to recreate it. The best way that I found to go about it is to draw a small circle in the centre, and then to draw the petals that are at the top, bottom and right and left, so like the points on a compass. And then you draw one or two petals in those gaps left between the up, down, left and right petals. I found this just really helps get the direction of the petals going in the right way, and it also means you've got them nicely spread out, all going in the right direction as you go around the flower. So as you can see for this cover page, I've got a circle with flowers going around it, and then I'm going to have August written across the middle in the centre of the circle. The best thing to do is to use a compass or something circular you can draw around, and then you want to plot the flowers in pencil first, obviously, and just try to space them out a little bit randomly. You can have a couple closer together, a couple a bit more spread out, and I then chose to add some smaller flowers and some leaves and vines in between just to create a little bit of variety and contrast in the size of the shapes on the page. And it also meant I could introduce another colour, which is the light pink that I'm using for the smaller flowers. Then I went back in with the green Crayola super tip to colour in the flowers and also overline the stems just like I did on the quote page, and I think that pop of green really brings the page to life, so I decided to bring it into the title as well and just overlined the writing that I'd done with the fine liner, so it almost has a bit of a green glow. And then I used the coloured fine liners again to add that sparkle, and I think those little sparkly bits go along with the glowing green as well really nicely and just brings a bit more vibrancy to the page. Next up is the mood tracker, and of course because we're doing flowers, daisies as the theme, I wanted to do one big flower for the mood tracker, and I don't think I've actually done a mood tracker like this before, even though I know it's quite a popular style and people like to use them, so I was looking forward to setting this up. But then when I came to actually drawing it out in pencil, I realised it's not going to be as easy as it looks, just trying to distribute the petals, make sure that there's enough for every day of the month and that sort of thing. So it took a little bit of maths and a little bit of fiddling it around, but what I basically did was, because there's 31 days in August, I started off with plotting in the up, down, left and right petals as I talked about earlier. So I did 31 minus those 4 petals, that gave us 27, and I then had to divide that up into 4 so that it would tell me how many petals need to go in each of those 4 segments. So we ended up with 3 lots of 7 and 1 6, so that the total would get us to 31, and it just shows the importance of doing things in pencil first, because once I'd got the right number of petals in the general area that I needed them to be, I just went back over it, made sure the petals were a bit more similar in size, that we didn't have one really skinny one or any that were too bunched up, that sort of thing, and I think it looks pretty good come the end. So it's definitely worthwhile taking that bit of extra time just to plan it out and make sure it can look the best you can do. Then I used the goldy yellow coloured Tombow to colour in the centre of the circle, and then I picked 4 colours that I was going to use to track each mood. I got the little key down at the bottom, so I decided to use 4 daisies and then put a little smiley face next to them to represent each of the emotions, and then I just chose the 4 colours that I thought would look nice once they're put on as the petals as I track the mood through the month. And I also tend to choose colours that I've used elsewhere in the colour palette just to make sure it's all in keeping with the theme. The last tracker that I'm setting up this month is a migraine tracker, which if you've seen some of my videos then you know this is something that I struggle with, unfortunately, so having a migraine tracker is just something that's relevant for me and I tend to include nowadays. But it's a very general setup, so if you want to change it out for something that works better for you, then you can still use this setup, you just have to alter what your key means. The way I'm setting this up is having a little flower for each day of the month, and then it's going to be coloured in with the score that I'm giving my migraine in terms of where it falls on a pain scale of 1 to 5. But for example, you could turn this into a reading tracker, and it could be that the colours that you colour in the flowers relate to how many pages you read, or it could be if you wanted to track your steps, you can just break down those steps into say 1,000 or 1,000 to 2,000, 3,000 to 4,000, that sort of thing, and then it actually creates a really simple tracker that you can make your own and make it relevant to whatever it is that you would like to track for the month. So this one was a little bit tedious. I thought it would look nice, but as I started drawing it, I realised it was going to be a bit of a slow one to set up. It definitely took me a little while to draw all of these daisies, and so just to give a bit of variety and to also help speed it up, I used some smaller flowers that just had a few petals on, so not all of them were the daisies that have loads of petals and then take a long time to draw. And then for the key, just to make it a bit different to what I'd done on the mood tracker side, I decided to draw some leaves on a stem and then leave a few of them not coloured in so that I can use those for the rating or pain scale. And you might not be able to see, but the leaves are numbered 1 to 5. And then I just coloured in a few of the extra ones so that the stem didn't look too bare. Then it was time to fill in the centre of the circles with the yellowy orange colour again. And then I grabbed the coloured fine liners just to add the sparkle around the title pages. I wasn't actually decided whether I was going to include this or not, or just keep it a bit more minimalist because this page is quite busy, but it looked a bit plain without it, so I went back and added it to the mood tracker as well as the migraine tracker, and I really love how it turned out. And finally, I'm going to be setting up a weekly spread, so this isn't something I usually include as I tend to film these for YouTube Shorts and TikTok and all of that. But I thought as I'd only got 4 pages in the monthly spread setup that I had a bit of time and I could include the first weekly spread for August. So the way I do it in my journal is sometimes I'll do half weeks, but for the most part I just tend to divide it into the month depending on if the majority of the days in that week are for the previous month or the next month. So for example, the first few days of August are going to be in the last weekly spread in July because there's 3 days in that week that are August but 4 days that are July. So hopefully that makes sense. I've probably just explained that and overcomplicated it, but that is how I do it. So that's why my first week is starting on the 4th of August. And I have a few kind of weekly spread go-to setups that I use, the way that I split up the pages, and I tend to rotate between these depending on what I feel like basically, and this is one of my favourite ones. So I draw a line down the outside edge of each page, and this is a space for me to do some drawings and illustrations in keeping with the theme, and the space to bring a bit of life and colour to the page. And then for those middle sections I divide them into quarters horizontally, so we've got space at the top for the monthly title and the dates for that week, and then there's 7 left for each day of the week, and that is the space that I will then use to plan my week, include my to-do list, and this can also be a place that you can include habit tracking because there's plenty of space on this page even with those side sections for the drawings. So I thought, as this is one of my favourite setups, this would be the one that I share. So I'm just finishing off the drawing on the left hand side, and then I'm gonna finish writing in the days of the week. I decided to do this in the pink and blue colours that I've used because those are kind of the small accent colours that I've had throughout this monthly setup, and I just didn't choose the yellow because it's obviously not going to stand out very well on the white background, so the pink and blue were the best choice for that. And I think it looks really nice. It helps tie in those extra bits of colour that we don't see anywhere else. And sometimes when I'm doing this kind of setup, I will actually draw the line down on those side sections so that the illustrations are kind of separated. But I just thought because of the kind of sparkly, whimsical kind of look with the stars and speckles that I've got around the flowers, that it would be nice not to draw the line, so it kind of blends a little bit more at the edges. And I actually think I might prefer how this looks, so that might be something I carry on into future weekly spreads. Then I'm just using the green Crayola super tip over the top of the stems, and that is this weekly spread all complete. So that is my bullet journal all set up ready for August. We've got the quote page, the cover page, the mood tracker and the migraine tracker, and then for the first time I've included one of my weekly spread setups. So let me know if you enjoyed that being included, and I can try and do that going forward if it's helpful. I really love how this one turned out, and I'm glad I decided to include that extra bit of colour and sparkle around the title sections and the edges of the flowers, because it really brings the page to life, and I think it looks so nice and summery, perfect for August. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe and hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when I next upload, and I'll see you in the next one.